I've been recording my work in different spaces for years. It's part of the reason why I've been able to sustain this art career, is by sharing how I'm working and what I'm working on with you like this. The job of filming something is an interesting one. By nature, it's meant to be hidden. You never really see a camera or around the field of view. For example, there's a microphone hidden right here and there's a big light blasting, which is pretty obvious. But most of what's going on is meant to just feel seamless and meant to feel hidden to the viewer. Also, this video is sponsored by Squarespace, but I'll tell you more about them later. So here's what's happening. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at now. So I have my camera there, which I'm looking at, and I'm trying to avoid looking at that little screen because it makes it feel off. Got my script that I've written up there in front, my microphone here, big light here, and then just a bunch of other things. Top-down camera, and yeah, it's kind of messy. Full disclosure, I'm a huge camera gear nerd, meaning I get really into the technical aspects of cameras. So if I get carried away talking about the technical things, for those of you who are here just to see the drawing stuff, I'll just add a little window or something where you can watch some drawing stuff while I'm talking about the technical things. I use a top-down camera to capture the overall process of a drawing, as well as a side camera to show a more zoomed in close-up shot of details and more technical things that are going on. There are a bunch of hurdles that come from filming an artwork, lighting being probably one of the main ones. For example, if I light my work just from the top, like we usually do, then the top-down camera will have this glare and it'll detract from the process and the work would look bad. If I light it from the right-hand side, then my hand would cast a shadow over the drawing and it would obscure what I'm doing. Also, I wouldn't really be able to see what I'm doing. And so I have to light it from the left-hand side, and that's also where I keep my second camera. And so I have to offset that light a little bit, because if it's directly behind the side angle, then that shot just looks super flat and uninteresting. So offsetting it a little bit creates some shadows, just a little bit of interest and volume for that shot as well. Ideally, I'd want to light my work from the same direction that the light in the subject is coming from, which isn't always easy. If I can, I'll rotate my artwork so that the light source within the work kind of mirrors the light source that I have set up here. And it just creates this illusion that it's being lit from the same place. And then when you see the drawing process happening, it kind of feels more real as well. But that's not always possible, so I just try and look out for that opportunity and do it when I can. The next challenge is continuous shooting. I'm usually filming for a long period of time. I have to just keep rolling while I'm drawing for hours, and that means that the batteries run flat and the SD cards get full. I need another SD card. Never ends. It never ends. Goes in there. Battery's flat. Okay. Cool. And so it's always best for me to have access to especially my top-down camera so that I can easily swap things out. But if I'm working on a really large drawing, then that's not always the case. I've had to set cameras up super high before, and then I have to climb a ladder to make those changes, which can be really frustrating. And so I have to use dummy batteries. And dummy batteries are a cable that has something that looks like a battery at the end of it that you put into your camera, and that plugs into the electricity in the studio. The reason we call them dummy batteries is because cameras are really easy to trick, and so we trick the camera into thinking that it's got a battery in, but it's just plugged into the studio power. Newer cameras, though, can just use USB-C power, which is really nice, but a lot of them have noise interference from the electrical current. So if you want to record sound or audio like this, and you plug USB-C power plus your mic jack in, then that electricity actually interferes with the camera recording quite a bit. I think it's usually because I'm using a power brick that might not be an official camera brand power brick, and so there's that noise interference. But those can be really expensive, or the cables can be really expensive. And so I've got an even more expensive workaround, which is fun. I think because I love camera gear and often I'm doing shoots like the one behind me for products or demonstrations or something, I just really love having good camera gear. So I also then would use an external recorder, which the one that myself and probably lots of amateur filmmakers prefer is the Atmos Ninja V or Ninja 5, depending on how it's meant to be done. I don't know what people call it. But this is an external recorder, and this means that I can stitch the audio signal and the HDMI signal within the recorder and kind of bypass the camera's internal preamp, which can sometimes be a bit worse or has some noise issues, like with the electricity thing. The Ninja also conveniently solves another problem, which is recording onto SD cards and constantly needing to swap them out when the cards get full. This is an annoying byproduct of the recording process, and it often kicks me out of my flow state while I'm busy drawing. Even though I'm using fairly large SD cards, I still fill them up probably once or twice a day. Kind of sounds silly me complaining about that now, that like once a day I have to change something. But in the moment, it really feels like it's happening all the time. I think it's because there's multiple cameras, and yeah. But that also brings us into the filming codecs world, which is a super fun world of technical jargon and stuff. There's a compression algorithm or rate that compresses the video file so that it can fit onto an SD card, and different cameras and different recording devices use different compressions. The fun industry standard one is usually ProRes, I think. More technical people probably know more technical standards, but because I'm filming all day, it means that these files get really, really large, and I need to try and use a high efficiency video codec. And so I usually use H.264 or H.265. I sometimes use ProRes if it's not going to be such a long recording, which is nice for the editing process because H.264 files can tax my computer CPU when I'm editing. Also, to further that problem, because these video recordings are like half an hour long or an hour long, those files can also just tax your computer even further. It's much better to have each clip be a couple gigs rather than tens or hundreds of gigs if it was in ProRes, and then I need to just replace my hard drives every couple months, and hard drives are expensive, especially when they fall off the wall and you lose like half a decade of recording. Ask me how I know. So I'm just prioritizing being able to store the footage, and I'll take the slap on the wrist when my computer slows down a little bit. So the next thing is depth of field, and that's what's making the background look all out of focus and soft, and me all crisp and sharp, hopefully. And that's nice for talking heads and shooting things like this, but it's not so great when shooting artwork. So often I just forget my camera on a shallow depth of field, and I film and I draw, and then I drift out of focus. So a lot of my footage is unusable because it's all out of focus. So I really need to try and crank my f-stop up to about 11 or so, and that'll just make sure my whole artwork is in focus, especially from the side camera. The only issue that you might run into there is that you have to make sure that you have enough light, but that's not usually a huge problem. I often talk about something else while I'm sharing the journey of drawing, like sharpening a pencil. And while usually we'll want to keep our camera angles consistent, sometimes we have to move them. And that's why it's especially useful to have two camera angles while editing. So if there's an inconsistency, I can just chop the camera angle to the side for a while and then come back. And it's really difficult to see if something moved or changed. It all just feels like one fluid take, and that's just some editing magic, which makes life a little bit easier. But coming back to the point, if I want to show how I sharpen my pencils, I can just take my side camera and show something that's away from the drawing table, and then come back while I'm editing and just make it look like everything's perfect. Anyway, that's how I'm filming stuff at the moment. It's complete overkill. You really don't need to have all of this equipment to film. We can actually just use a cell phone. My friend Greg Stock, who is possibly the best woodworker in South Africa, I think the Southern Hemisphere at the moment, he just uses his phone or two phones to film stuff for social media. And that's actually all you need. It's really nice to have all of this gear. I'm passionate about it, so it makes me feel excited to film my work and to edit it and to show it and to tell the story of something as beautifully as possible. But if you're limited by the amount of gear you have, you can just grab one of these arms. I'll show you now, or maybe in the B-roll, I'll show you what the arm looks like. You can pop your phone into that and get a top-down shot really easily. And you can also, if you have a gallery, you can make them by your second phone and use that as your side angle as well. And then you can do the editing magic with all of your cameras. And then the main consideration is just lighting. I've done a bunch of videos on lighting, and I've got some videos about lighting in my Patreon as well, if you want to join that to learn some stuff. Yeah, generally that's how I'm working at the moment. Before in this video though, I just want to give a huge thank you to this video sponsor, Squarespace. I've been working with them for a couple of years now, and they've played a huge role in my career, not only in sponsoring these videos and helping me maintain this channel, but early on in my career. I was looking for a way to showcase my work and make it easy for collectors to find me and get in touch with me. And I didn't have time to learn HTML and try and build a beautiful, reliable website, but I found that Squarespace did all of that effortlessly. I never had to patch or upgrade anything. I could register a domain with them and set up an online store. Most importantly, I could design a portfolio and show my work the way that I wanted to. Also, every time I got stuck, their amazing support team helped me out instantly. So if you're looking at building a website, give Squarespace a try. And if you decide that you love them, use this offer code and get 10% off your first purchase. There we go. Filming is such a wonderful part of the process. For me, it's also something I love and hate. It's distracting at times, but I do really love being able to share and tell the story of how artworks are created. And yeah, if you're thinking of doing that for your own practice, I hope that this is helpful. If it is, leave a like. Helps the channel out in a huge way. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you in those or in another video. Yeah, as always, thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.